Tom Quinn, my grandpa, was an actor and a boxer, occasionally at the same time. This is the story of how these two seemingly different interests helped him find joy and himself.
He had a lifelong sense of drama. And I really think he had a kind of romantic view of the world. Everything was always part of a big story. And he would even if he's just telling some stupid story about, his kids from growing up, he'd embellish. He had a sense for dramatic arc and presentation. And when he was a little kid, he just always was good at it. He said the nuns always picked him for the lead roles in the play, that he there was something about him.
He was an Irish storyteller. He had great flair. He always had a huge, charismatic, performative way of being in space.
He was very critical of art and good art, right? The worst thing you could be is not clever. But my God, did he love good acting, good theater, good drama. I mean, it would literally bring him to tears.
I think Dad always had a lot of creative energy. And I think he had, for a man of his class and his generation, going into the arts was probably not an option, ever. Not one that was probably offered to him or that he allowed himself to spend a ton of time early in life thinking about. When
he was a kid, he had an Uncle Terry who used to pay him and his friend Gaylord Worstel $1, which was a huge amount of money in the 1940s, to box each other. So I guess he was kind of a professional fighter when you think about it as a little kid.
He grew up boxing more as like a hobby or neighborhood kind of thing to do. It's interesting, there were these three kind of great loves in his life, outside of his family, of course, but boxing, acting, and great writing. He always loved great writing. And so part of, I think, his appeal to boxing was tied into his love for sports writing, and read Smith and other amazing, A.J. Liebling and other great sports writers. He loved the written word. And so to me, it's all art. Boxing, is often called the sweet science. To him, it's another performance. And, that part of him that was really into sports and kind of hyper masculine and, that piece, I think the boxing spoke to that true competition. He always talked about boxing as being the purest sport. It's just you and another person in the ring, and there's no tools, there's no equipment, it's just the two of you. And it all comes down to heart. And so I think that's kind of the thread for him between boxing and acting. It's performance, it's you, it's all about you.
It's really interesting. There are big parallels between his boxing and acting careers, and that he never learned the craft the way you're supposed to. He didn't grow up in gyms, just like he didn't grow up in theater or acting. Once he became a professional, he still liked the idea of being a natural. And he refused to take acting classes or hone his craft the way I felt he should have. I felt like once you're a professional, you owe it to your craft to treat it like a profession. But he loved the idea of being the natural. And so he wanted to say, never had acting classes, never had training. Even when he got into acting, he didn't go straight into it. It just turned out to be something that he was so good at. He kept finding more opportunities. So I don't think he ever had an intention in his life of being an actor until he had, so many offers for work that he could actually make a living from it.
After our parents got divorced, he was interested, I think, in finding other things to do, and turned to theater. Took an improv class, or an acting class. I don't think it was an improv class, it was an acting class, where he did very well, and I think got a lot of encouragement, and from there moved into the theater more seriously.
I think he was born to this idea of, all the world's a stage. And, when his friend Norman Mailer was was starting to make his first film in the late 60s, he just knew my dad to be somebody who could be just kind of jump out on screen, and he did.
He enjoyed the process so much. You know, he loved the rehearsing. He loved learning his lines. He loved really, you know, fine-tuning it and getting it right. And he loved the allure of it. He loved the call sheets when it was a movie or a TV show. And, you know, he loved for the most part, he loved the directors and the other actors he worked with.
You watch him in a movie, especially when he's interacting with somebody. And, you know, someone like Denzel Washington, who, I mean, one of the greatest actors of this generation, the first take that they did together of the one scene they had, he didn't even realize that Denzel had started because it was so subtle and low key. He thought he was just talking, and he was unaccustomed to screen acting. I mean, the last movie he had done was, you know, 30-something years earlier. And he, you know, it was wild to watch him interact with this just unbelievable actor and seeing what he did. When you watch him in The Wire, he's got 4 episodes and it's 4 different directors. And so you see how different the direction is in each with the same character. And that was amazing to me because he's got, you know, one early scene where he's supposed to play drunk. And ironically, it's one of the least effective things I've ever seen him do.
You all go for a taste?
Hey, we got your picture. Don't you fucking worry, McNulty.
This is Barksdale?
Avon Barksdale.
I don't think so.
Read my lips. Avon fucking Barksdale. His name's on the form in the file.
Well, excuse me for giving a shit, but I can't help but notice this is a middle-aged white man.
Hey, you want something different, you give me another name. That's the only Avon Barksdale in the housing department file.
It was so over the top. But then his last episode, where he does this sweet little scene in the hospital, you know, here he is, this corrupt cop who's figured out a way to game the system and retire with a pension because of a disability. The director just kept telling him, take it down, take it down. And I watch him, and it is so subtle, and it's so good.
Tell you what do you say we go out together?
What do you mean?
I mean, it only hurts for a minute. And it doesn't have to be line of duty either. I'm serious. You know those stairs where they send us down the basement?
Yeah?
It's dark down there. You go up 8 or 9 steps, let go of the rail, take a little jump.
I'd break my fucking neck like that.
You don't break nothing. You do a little dance in those steps. You're up to 2/3 with me. And maybe you sue the city, get a little more. Can't say we don't deserve it.
It just seeing the difference, you know, in one guy with one character, yeah, it absolutely changed how I look at everything.
My favorite thing, it's a tiny little moment actually, is in West Wing. And it's the scene where, you know, he's got the one scene where he's sitting in the POW booth on the mall, and, you know, the one-on-one scene with Richard Schiff. And he just has this moment where he says, "Merry Christmas." And it's the most genuine, heartfelt thing. It chokes me up every time, even just talking about it.
You a veteran?
Yeah.
Tubby Ziegler. John Noonan. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There's a sweetness to it that was the best part of him. And I think that's why that's my favorite scene.
I just remember being really happy for him when the hammer came out.
Who here knows how many gold medals the United States boxing team has won in the last 2 Olympics combined? 1. That's right. Uno. Cuba has won 9. Kazakhstan has won 3. I don't even know where that is. France has won as many gold medals as the United States in the last 2 Olympics. France, for Christ's sake. Today, we're going to find out if anyone here might have what it takes to change that in 2008.
He had such a big role. It was so exciting. He did a great job. It was so in his wheelhouse, and it just felt like a really great, special moment. I am still proud of him for taking on something like that, like halfway through his life. It's a brave thing to do. Most people don't do it. And it was awesome. It provided so much connection and creative outlets and like a wonderful, full, rich part of his life. And I think I was too young to appreciate, as he was doing it, how bold that was and how unusual that was and how great that was. And I will say, especially for men who do have a tendency, and I will say this as a sociologist, to rely on women for their social connections, to rely on the women in their lives for social connections. Dad had a really kind of rich, vibrant, active place in his community because he was doing this. And it built community for himself doing this in a way that is really rare for people to start doing kind of halfway through their lives.
It meant everything to him to do it well.
Let's get started.